All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now 12 o'clock. It is now the final day of the month, and you know what that means. Time for us to go over the chapters of One Piece in the month of February. So, let's go ahead and get the formalities out of the way, shall we? Yo, peoples! Kyushu92 here, and welcome to this month's reflection stream of One Piece. Now, we got 3 chapters in the month of February, chapters 1074, 75, and 76. All significant, including the most latest one we got on Sunday, which just blew all the other chapters just straight out of the water, okay? Can I be honest? The last chapter we got of One Piece just set a precedent of like, oh, so stuff is really about to go down now. So let's go ahead and get started with the first chapter. First chapter we got in this month was chapter 1074, Mark 3. Now, not only was this a chapter where we see Sentomaru recovering, and I'm like, what is with the level of One Piece character durability? This man got impaled through the chest. You have to be abnormal if you are to survive in the world of One Piece. You can't just simply be normal. You can't. Because if something happens to really normal people, they just straight up die. But if you're even just 1% abnormal, just 1%, then stuff that could normally kill a normal person will have you like on the ground, and then in the next panel or in the next chapter, you're sitting up with a bandage over your head like you didn't just get impaled through the chest. But Sentomaru is okay. Even though Lucci got him with the entire, not finger pistol, but hand pistol, Sentomaru is sitting up recovering with a big old massive bandage over his head. But that's before we get a view at the new type of pacifista. Now remember, the Seraphim are not the replacements for pacifistas, but they are the replacements for the warlords. So the Seraphim still exist separately from the pacifistas. They're not their replacements, but the pacifistas have been massively upgraded ever since we saw the original Kuma prototypes. They've been massively upgraded to Mark III, and one aspect of these Mark III tyrant-looking pacifistas is that they are able to create a bubble shield that perfectly reflects anything that is aimed at them. So not only did Vegapunk pretty much reverse engineer Kuma's entire likeness into the pacifistas, he also pretty much reverse engineered Kuma's very own Nikyu no Mi, the pawpaw fruit power that he has, as a way for these pacifistas to have a way to shield themselves. Mind you, they can still shoot out laser blasts like normal pacifistas, but they are able to bring up a bubble shield that is able to shield them, because it shows one of these Mark IIIs pretty much repelling and deflecting a bazooka shot, and it rebounds off of the bubble shield, and then it hits the CP agents that are trying to, take them down. And all this stuff is happening in the Fabrio phase of Egghead. Hold on, let me get chat off to the side. Come on, Kyushu, remember Pell and Kinemon? I know, that's why I said, if you are just 1% abnormal, then you'll basically survive anything. Yeah, we got Pell. We got Pell all the way in Alabasta. Literally survives point blank a semi-nuclear explosion. And then later in the arc, he's just, recovering. Then we got Kinemon, who all the way up into the Wano arc was not completely put together simply because the Straw Hats put his body together. And it wasn't Law who pretty much just shambled his body back together. It pretty much allowed him to survive being impaled by Kaido, simply because he was not put together 100% right for his body to be whole. Like I said, Law has to be the one to put people. I had to remember. Law has to be the one to put a person back together for their body to be 100% correct. But if your body is put back together, there's a chance that your body may not be aligned correctly. So somehow or another, Kinemon, I don't understand. That is so mind-boggling to me, and I don't think it makes sense how Kinemon has been walking around doing all this extra stuff, all this jumping around, All this movement from the moment that Straw Hats put his body back together back in Punk Hazard, all going through all the events of Dressrosa, going through all the events that lead him to being on Wano, including all the fighting that Kinemon has done before that moment where Kaido impales him through the back. And I'm like, okay, so his body is fine, moving around, contorting and having whatever's happening to him, and his body's like that, but all of a sudden Kaido comes up and he stabs him through the back, and the reason why Kinemon survived is because his body wasn't perfectly aligned. So I'm thinking, if his body wasn't perfectly aligned to begin with, how is this, I mean, see, the more I think about it, the less sense it kind of makes to me, because in order for Kaido to impale Kinemon, that would insinuate that his body, where he was stabbed at, was not perfectly aligned. But at the same time, there have been moments where Kinemon obviously had to change, because you can't tell me that Kinemon has never looked at himself without his shirt and seen like if his body was aligned or anything like that. You can't tell me that he's just been wearing that same kimono and never took it off. So it's kind of mind-boggling how Kinemon survived. Because I honestly don't think Kinemon should have survived that. Like, sure, he had a nice ending with Suru, but him surviving getting stabbed through the back like that, it's that 1% abnormal survival rate. But this isn't a stream for me to talk about just how mind-bogglingly confusing it is for Kinemon to survive getting stabbed through the back like that. Like, I don't know. But Sentomaru is fine. Actually, like I said, let me pop out chat here, so that way I can have the actual page all on one side, and then I can look at chat on the other. Because chat appearing in this, it still doesn't work like it's supposed to, so it's kind of weird. I don't know if it's been fixed. Hold on, let me attempt something. Ogata-san, I may need your assistance with this, so if you would be so kind as to say something, so I can see if chat works normally. Because if it works normally, then we may be in business and I'll be able to have chat up again. But if it doesn't, then I'll just turn it off. But let me come back here. We're approaching that episode very soon. Yeah. Okay. All right, so it's working. It's working. What? Chat. Okay, so now we can have chat up in streams again. That is so weird, because I didn't mess with any settings. Yeah, it's moving. I don't need to hit buttons and... Okay. All right. Okay, so chat can appear in streams again. That is so weird. I wonder why it wasn't working properly before. That is so weird. But at least chat is up now. Oh, it's good now, because now I can fill up this empty space that's right here. So, okay, thank you, Ogata. Thank you. You basically just saved on-screen chat just now with that. That's the confirmation. Thank you. You just saved on-screen chat. I didn't touch anything concerning it, so it's just updating on its own. Okay. All right. That's good. But let me get back to the chapter. I need to focus here. I need to focus on what's going on here. But the pacifistas are basically going up these Mark IIIs, which are basically the newest versions of pacifistas, are going up against the CP agents, Naval Science Team Battle Weapon Pacifista. And like I said during the initial reaction of this chapter, they are basically built up like tyrants from Resident Evil. Full-fledged giant overcoats, overwhelming power. They're basically built up to be just like the tyrants from Resident Evil. Except if you were to take their jackets off, their bodies probably won't horribly misfigure and disfigure themselves. So That's a thing, but it's like there's so many of them. Remember, there's 50 of these things making their way over to protect Vegapunk and the Straw Hats because Sentomaru, who's fine, and my thing is, did they get Sentomaru a brand new shirt? Because I am pretty sure that when Lucci stabbed him through the chest, what also got hit was his shirt, but his shirt doesn't have a hole in it. Unless it works the same way Finger Pistol does, and just he jabbed into Sentomaru's chest, but the shockwave went through his back. But that still doesn't explain how his shirt is unscathed. Like they bandaged his head and they just gave him a brand new, what do you call that, apron? A brand new shirt, and it doesn't have a hole in it. Like all of them is just royally messed up, bandages everywhere, scratches everywhere. The dude is big, I forget. He's bigger than most people, but his shirt doesn't have a hole in it. But Sentomaru gives orders to the pacifistas and saying, like, what worries me now is that the Navy keeps looping its communications to prevent us from getting updates. Guess I'm a rebel now, too. Then I might as well act like one. Pacifistas Mark III, deploy all 50 of you. Straw Hat Luffy is going to take Dr. Vegapunk away on his ship. Your duty is to see them off safely. The Navy's acting fishy. Keep an eye on the horizon. And it just shows this army, this small army of 50 Mark III pacifistas, as Sentomaru cries out, it's clear that something's about to happen on this island. Let's assume there was another shirt underneath. Just like Kakashi. Underneath this shirt is another shirt! I've had some of those days myself, to be honest. Make sure your creator gets off this island alive. Then it cuts to the Labio phase as it shows Luffy was apparently running all over the entire Labo phase looking for Vegapunk, only for Shaka to come in and says, like, you can see the entire lab on the monitor here. She's been here, and Bonnie's been here the whole time. And this upsets Luffy because he just spent all this time running around when Shaka could have just told him that all this stuff was on screen for him to look at instead of him running himself. Because Luffy was running around so much that he was actually tired from running. But Shaka's all like, yeah, I can see all this stuff that you were trying to search for from here. Mention that! Then it cuts to Brook, Stussy, and Zoro, who finally make it up to the lab with the rest of the Straw Hats, and they're all in the Vegapunk fit. Zoro with his constant black. Like, I remember when I feel like Zoro's colors when he was initially shown in the series are the colors that his outfits have been changing in between. Because if you notice, when we first see Zoro, he has on these three colors: white, green, and black. When we go to the time skip, we see him in only green. When we get to the point where the assault on Onigashima is happening, we see him in black. So now the only color left is white, but I guess they're sticking with him having dark colors on. I don't know exactly what color this is on Zoro. He could be red for all we know, but Zoro has been dressing in dark colors ever since the events of Onigashima. And, I mean, it suits him fine. Plus the fact that he has his swords on his back and not his side. I think that's the first time we ever see Zoro wield his swords in a position other than his right side. I think that's the first time we ever see Zoro holstering his all three of his swords in a position that's different than his side. Because we've never seen Zoro have his swords on his back. He's not a draw, because my thing is, he's not a draw from the back type of swordsman. He always draws from his side so he can put one in his mouth. It's like ease of access real quickly, but now he's got to put his hands on top of his back, then put that in front, or like grab them all from the back. Like, try grabbing 3 swords at once with 2 hands. Just imagine how cumbersome that must be. It's just a minor thought, but this is the first time we've ever seen Zoro with a different holster style for his swords. But Brook looks awesome, just as tall as ever. He looks like he looks like one of those, you ever see those movies where it's a space movie and people are trying to find out, oh, what happened to these people on this planet? We haven't heard back from them. And then they go there and then you just see skeletons left inside of the spacesuits. We've seen it before, Prometheus, all these different alien series where people are already dead and no one knows until they go investigate. Brooke looks like one of those people you find dead on the moon in these space horror films, and he's just like a dead spaceman in a suit. He's basically, that's what he is in this Vegapunk outfit. And then all the rest of the Straw Hats reunite with one another. Nami looks like she was about to stomp Lucci and the Giggles, with Robin actually being a person to say, like, calm down, like motion for her to calm down. Atlas is shown to be fine. York is shown to be a literal giant woman. Matter of fact, hold on. Vegapunk, York. Twice the height of Brooke. Now, if I remember correctly, Brooke is... Stop moving the page! If I remember correctly, Brooke is about 8 feet tall, I believe. Brooke is about 8 feet tall. Hold on. Height... yeah. He's actually 9 feet. How did he grow? He's a skeleton. How did he grow? In his debut, he was 8 feet and 8 inches and 3/4. And after the time skip, he's 9'1". He's 9'1". York is clearly towering over Brooke. So she's got to at least be 12 feet tall. If not bigger than that, even though it says that she's twice the height of Brooke. So, yeah, she's tall. She's a tall woman. Oh, hey, CJ. Good thing I'm talking about tall women's. But all the Straw Hats reunite. And then Shaka comes to the conclusion saying we're suffering 2 abnormalities at the moment. Brace yourself for this. One is the disappearance of the Stella. The other is loss of control over the Frontier Dome. And then everyone's all like, well, what do you mean? I mean that we are no longer able to leave the Labo phase. They're basically sealed inside. So York would be near 17.5 feet, roughly about. They don't give her height estimates or any estimates of that matter on the wiki, but she's clearly tall. Sanji is enamored with her, and everyone's just chilling, but we come to the conclusion that they're all trapped inside of the dome. Someone has trapped all of them inside the dome, so they have absolutely no way to get out. You can assume that if we try to get out, we'll be fried by lasers. And both Chopper and Usopp freak out. What? But we're supposed to be taking Vegapunk off this island, right? That's true, but the man himself is currently missing. So what you can do to help is find the Stella. In the meantime, I'll figure out a way to repair the dome. And Frankie, yeah, but what's the point of looking for Vegapunk if even your all-seeing monitors don't show him? So, people get split up and go in different teams in order to find where Vegapunk is. And Zoro wants to go, but everyone tells him to stay behind simply because it's Zoro. His sense of direction is basically the polar opposite of his mastery of the sword. It's like, left, right, what is that? I only know the direction of where my eyes are looking. He doesn't know what left and right is. He just knows, I'm going to go that way because my eyes are pointing that way. That's Zoro. But Zoro and Luffy are left behind. Zoro because he has a horrible sense of direction, and then everyone will have to end up finding him on top of the Stella. And Luffy is staying behind because he's simply tired from running all over the place trying to look for Bonnie and Vegapunk. And they're left there to watch after Lucci and Kaku. Then we go to the Paw Room, where Bonnie is reliving the memories of her father. And it shows her father as a child crying, saying that he doesn't want to go back anywhere. And it cuts to other people who are running up to Kuma, telling him, with them saying, "I found him. You get back here right now. If you escape, they'll kill every last one of us." And Kuma, as a child, is crying, saying that he doesn't want to go back. And a lot of us came to the conclusion is that maybe he was a former slave of the Celestial Dragons. Because think about it. If the Celestial Dragons are the type of individuals where if one of their slaves escapes, then they send their other slaves out to go get them, and if they can't bring them back, then they'll basically just kill all of them. That sounds like something a celestial dragon would do. And another key factor that pretty much brings home the validity to this theory is the fact that there are two individuals who are shown silhouetted while Bonnie is witnessing her father being beaten as a child. One of these individuals has the trademark Celestial Dragon cowlick hairstyle. Of course, we don't see the silhouette of the bubble around their heads, but the way the hair is shaped is kind of reminiscent of how a Celestial Dragon actually looks. And Bonnie can only look on because she can't do anything to the memories. She can't do anything to the memories of her father. She can only look on and cry as she sees her father being beaten. Because they're saying like crying isn't going to solve anything, you enormous brat, and these individuals are begging him to go back, and he says, "Then kill me here instead. Why bother going back? I'm just going to die anyway." So that's another thing that makes us think that he was probably a slave to the Celestial Dragons when he was a child, and later in life he got out of that life. Stands to reason why he would join up with Dragon, because he has like a personal stake in seeing the Celestial Dragon's downfall as well. But she's just witnessing her father being beaten, and then all of a sudden she finds herself outside of the memory bubble of Kuma. And as this is going on, it shows Kuma at the red line, still crawling up the wall, regardless of how many times they tried to beat him. And whatever Kuma is doing, it is so important that he's willing to dig his currently bleeding fingers into the very rock face itself in order to get to the top of Marijois. I don't know why. None of us know why he's even at the red line in the first place. And then it cuts back to Bonnie as she's just sitting there looking at the memory bubble, thinking this isn't something I can bear unless I'm truly ready for it, but I can't move on unless I know the truth. So the thing is, there's a lot of emotional, there's not only like the whole caveat of being able to look into a person's memories that Kuma's able to push out, but you also have to deal with the emotional burden of being in that memory. You get to experience all that this person has seen in their lives, and if you're close to that person, all that emotion that could swell up in you of seeing these memories firsthand. I mean, it's so much for even Bonnie to handle. Even though she wanted answers, this is so much for Bonnie to handle, but she's prepared to go back in there because she wants to know the truth. She wants to know the truth of everything concerning her father. So as this is going on, Pythagoras is walking around trying to find out where the Sela are. And as he's talking about, like, it's crazy how they made a mess of the place, considering the Seraphim were originally created in the labo phase. And then we hear some ka-dong, 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 and we know that's the sound of people who are wearing the Dom shoes. As Pythagoras goes, "Stella, where are you?" And as he looks back, he gets blown up. Then it cuts to Big News Morgans, who's there on the phone saying, like, "Look at that, an incredible scoop has just landed in my feathered lap. The world government is currently undertaking an assassination of the great Dr. Vegapunk. They're gonna kill the world's greatest mind. It's the Ohara incident all over again." And this is something I reiterated in the most latest chapter concerning what is currently about to happen to Egghead. But the government's picked the wrong fight this time. Vegapunk's a beloved figure, the man whose energy development brought light to every town in the world. So it's because of Vegapunk that everyone is basically able to harness. I'm guessing it's because of him that that every place that has lights, like lighting and stuff. It's because of Vegapunk. Basic electricity appliances and all the like stems from Vegapunk's work. Morgans wouldn't just flip it like this to be all like, it's because of Vegapunk that we got lights on just because it would sound nice. So coming from Morgans, it's because of Vegapunk that basically the world of One Piece is able to harness electricity in this manner, because there's no one else who comes up when it comes to basic basic technological advances in the world of One Piece. Sure, you got Queen. Sure, you got Judge. Sure, you got Caesar. But it's Vegapunk who's pretty much made all the biggest and most beneficial technological advancements in the world. All the other three that I mentioned, they basically just did it for themselves to try and be better than Vegapunk. But Vegapunk is the only one that everyone's all like, smartest man in the world. But yeah, because of Vegapunk, every place got lights. Well, every place that has lights got lights. And with him just happens to be this guy. So here's our front page. Straw Hat Luffy, Emperor of the Sea, wages all-out war with Navy at Egghead, holding Vegapunk hostage. The government should be very grateful, and I'll need you to collect their gratitude in liquid cash. So the thing is, if Boa reads a newspaper, she'll think Luffy's retaliating against the Navy and Seraphim for what they did in Amazon Lily. That's a very good point, because anyone affiliated with Luffy, especially pirates, if they see Luffy waging war against the Navy, some of them will in fact take it as a way of like, oh wow, he's fighting the Navy because of what happened to us. Even though Luffy has no idea what happened to Boa Hancock on Amazon Lily. Not the fact that Blackbeard was there. Not the fact that Kobe was there. Not the fact that Rayleigh was there. All the stuff that happened on Amazon Lily, they literally have no idea he literally has no idea what went down there. So if that news does get out to the world, it's only going to put even more of a target on Luffy's back, especially considering the world government, specifically the Gorosei, does not want Luffy's name in the headlines so much because of the recent happenings of him beating Kaido, and not only that, but his Gear 5 form being revealed to the world, which is something the Gorosei did not want it in the first place. This is going to bring even more attention to Luffy, which the world government does not want, because he's already a thorn in their side. So even though Morgans thinks like the government will be very grateful that he's doing this, the fact that he posted about Gear 5 Luffy's appearance before they could change anything and refuse to change anything, I don't know if this is going to go over like Morgans thinks it will. But given his, free ability to basically go anywhere he wants in his floating teapot airship, I don't think we need to worry about him being in any present danger. But as this is going on, someone says, what a preposterous excuse for a story, as we find out that Vivi is with Morgans. This whole time, a lot of us was wondering what happened to Vivi. And mind you, Rogers Base, during the time when this chapter came out, Rogers Base put out a video, like a short video, when it concerned Vivi going to the Reverie. And it was her getting chastised by some of her people who were traveling with her, escorting her to the Reverie. And she was in the crow's nest at the time. And during that time, one of the words spoken by one of these individuals says, like, please, miss, please get down from there. What would happen if a monstrous bird swoops up and takes you? That was some low-key foreshadowing from Oda, because the big monstrous bird is pretty much Morgans here. What if a big monstrous bird swoops down and takes you? That's pretty much a foreshadowing of Vivi being with Morgans, a pretty much monstrously large bird man. So when Roger said that, I was thinking, ain't no way. But then I looked at it and I was like, oh, Oda knows how to put foreshadowing in pages well before they happen. So Oda with that expert level foreshadowing that just goes over our head. Because half the time when we look at dialogue in One Piece, we just think Oda is just writing stuff to be writing stuff. But when it comes back to bite us in the behind, because he was pretty much teasing what was going to happen later in the future, and it works so well when you think about it, it's like, okay, we really can't trust anything. We got to question everything. But Vivi is there with Morgans, and for whatever reason, she's there with Wapol. And Vivi is chastising and, chiding Morgan, saying, like, Luffy would never do something like that. This is why I hate the World Economic Journal. And then it cuts to one of the news girls in the background going, "Those are my clothes, I'll never wash them again," because Vivi had to change. And she's wearing one of the news girls' clothes, and she's just chilling. And Wapple's all like, "Hey, keep your voice down. What if there's a wiretapping transponder snail and the government learns we're here? Their goons will whack us next. And don't talk back to Morgie. He's the one holding us. He's the one hiding us in the first place." So my thing is, I can understand why Vivi's in hiding because of all the events of the Reverie that's going on. But my thing is, why is Wapple with her? I feel like someone said something related to Wapple during the initial chapter reaction, but I'm like, why is Wapple there? That's my question. Why is Wapple even there? Gotta bring this page back up again, knowing that everything's working fine. Man, I'm so happy that chat works fine again. Woo, I'm so happy. Also, me and Gagio, we need to test some things out for a stream we're going to be doing at the end of March. I will set it up tomorrow, but there's going to be a stream that me and Gagio are doing on the 31st of March, and I got to make sure that his voice can come in clean and my voice can come in clean, so we'll test it out. But, hey, Hostel, sorry I'm late, missed a notification. What are we talking about? We are talking about chapter 1074. We're actually on the final page. We're going over the next 2 chapters of One Piece, and then we're going to talk about where we think One Piece is going to go, and any matters that we did not fully go into. But Morgan's at the end of this chapter says, "Bah, you were bawling your eyes out yesterday, little girl. Don't try to tell me how to do my job. This is the newsroom of the world, and I'm the mover and shaker. It's not..." Well, yes, Wapple was the one to telephone Morgans about information back in chapter 956. Yes, Ogata-san, it was you who said that. Man, I have to say, dude, your knowledge for One Piece, like, if I'm not able to get with Tekking, then I can definitely have you remind me of these different moments. It was you who said that during this initial reaction. So it was Wapple who pretty much called for Morgans about information back in 956. But Morgan says, "This is the newsroom of the world, and I'm the mover and shaker. It's not about fact or fiction, it's about what sells. News is the biggest entertainment of all, baby." And that's the end of chapter 1074. Yo, Gagil! We do have a lot to talk about today, because, and I'm saying this right now if you didn't see my community post, Elden Ring is getting DLC called Shadow of the Erd Tree. Elden Ring, a game that held the world in a chokehold for 6 months. For 6 months, is getting DLC. It's preparing to put people in a chokehold for another 6 months. So now I have an additional thing I'm really, really looking forward to. Okay, I see. Thank you very much. I'm curious if Wapple dug himself too deep and found something out he shouldn't have, and that's why he's gonna... Well, then that's what he's gonna tell Morgans. I mean, Morgans is getting so much information that no one else should have. Like the fact that he knows that the world government is trying to assassinate Vegapunk and eliminate him without any traces. He says the world government has currently undertaken an assassination of the great Dr. Vegapunk. They're gonna kill the world's greatest mind as the Ohara incident all over again. Didn't even finish playing Elden Ring yet, and it's already getting DLC? Wow, you haven't finished Elden Ring yet, Karma? Ooh. Interesting. I know for me, my first file, I still haven't gone to New Game Plus because I was waiting on DLC. And now that I know that DLC for Elden Ring is dropping, I will not go to New Game Plus because I want to experience on the first file that, and I am not trying to make the enemies harder by going on New Game Plus. So I can't wait. We don't know anything other than it's currently in development. But it's gonna be fun. I know it is. And it looks like we're going to be going to the land of reeds. You know, the place where the samurai characters come from? It looks like that. Because the location of the screenshot of it is basically like this big endless field. It's almost like I'm looking at a screenshot for Ghost of Tsushima. I don't know. But that's the end of chapter 1074. We need to keep going. We'll talk about Elden Ring in a bit. We'll talk about that in a hot minute. Chapter 1075. Labo Phase Death Game. Matter of fact, I forgot to do this. Go over the keynotes All right, so going over the patch notes of a chapter. I'm sorry, I got games on the brain. So, quick notes from chapter 1074. A group of 50 Mark III pacifistas attack the remaining world government officials. Sentomaru is revealed to have partially recovered and had activated the pacifistas, ordering them to protect the Straw Hats and Vegapunk at all costs. Sentomaru deducts that the Marines have already found out about his acts of treason and now recognize him as a rebel. Stutzy goes with Zoro and Brook to the control tower where the rest of the Straw Hats are located. Atlas is shown to be fixed. Shaka claims that Egghead's defenses are unresponsive, preventing them from leaving. Shaka claims to have found Bonnie on the security footage, but not Vegapunk. As everyone else leaves the control tower to look for Vegapunk or repair the damage, Luffy and Zoro stay behind with the unconscious Lucci and Kaku. Bonnie witnesses a memory of a young Kuma being abused by other people. Pythagoras is attacked by an unknown individual and an explosion occurs. Nefertari Vivi is revealed to be with Wapol, both being in Morgan's airship. Morgans has sheltered the two of them from the world government for unknown reasons. Morgans decides to publish news that Luffy has taken Vegapunk hostage. I feel so bad for Sentomaru on his day off. He gets dragged into all of this. Not only does he get dragged into this mess, but with siding with Vegapunk, he's pretty much outed himself from the Marines and is now going to be treated as a rebel. Imagine how Kizaru may feel like someone who calls him uncle all the time. You know, an individual that was constantly looking for him when he was originally introduced back in Sabaody. Imagine like how he must feel if he finds out like, ooh, Sentomaru-kun. Like, imagine how he would feel once he finds out that Sentomaru as basically being treated like a rebel. I feel like he would probably still be indifferent to it, and he'll just be nonchalant about it. I wouldn't say he'd be too surprised. I wouldn't, because the way Kizaru acts as a whole is just straight up, oh, that's happening? Huh. Blast it with a laser. So that's just how he behaves. He's literally one of the most level-headed individuals in the entire series. Not because he's always calm, but because he's so incredibly lackadaisical. So, his opinion and his thoughts on the matter, I would love to see. I have a feeling if they have an interaction, he might try and kill Sentomaru nonchalantly. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Because he has his own sense of justice, which is unclear justice. But he also has a hint of following absolute justice as well. Like, has unclear justice, where it's all like, I could take you guys out, or I couldn't. I haven't really decided yet. And it's not like Aokiji's lazy justice, or lazy justice, where he's all like, your bounty's gonna be, I don't know, it's gonna be a big number. Like, not putting forth the effort to see everything all the way through in that type of regard back when he was a Marine. But with Kizaru, he's just simply too unpredictable for us to even assume to know what he's going to do. He's that big of a troll of a character. We just don't know. He could be all like, I can't believe you took out my subordinate, my nephew. And I say nephew with parentheses, even though Sentomaru always calls him uncle, but they're not actually related. But we don't know how Kizaru will respond to the event of finding out that Sentomaru is being treated as a rebel because he decided to side with Vegapunk instead of the world government. We just simply don't know because Kizaru is basically the biggest wild card of the entire Navy. And that's saying something. We know how Fujitora would act. He acts morally good. Sure, he'll do things before the world government, but he'll still he's even willing to put his own job on the line. Because he's the exact same person that wanted to get rid of all the warlords and see their system abolished simply because of the chaos and destruction that they sowed. He would put civilian lives over his very own job. That's just the individual that he is. Ryokugyu is the individual who's just a big, massive fanboy for Akainu and an absolute follower of his ideals, absolute justice, and seeing the Celestial Dragons as gods of the world, and therefore anyone underneath the Celestial Dragons are subject to their rule. He's just a big, massive fanboy of Akainu. If I bring the head of Straw Hat Luffy to him, I'm sure Akainu will be incredibly happy that I brought them to him. He'll give me praise. Oh, the day when a Kainu gives Fleet Admiral Sakazuki would give me praise for bringing him the head of not only Straw Hat Luffy, but Trafalgar Law and Eustace Captain Kidd. It would be a greatest day. Like, that's the accent I give him. He's just a big, massive fanboy of the Kainu. So that only stands to reason that he follows in the Kainu's footsteps and just like, you have no right to speak. You're not affiliated with the world government. Therefore, you might as well be less than trash. And if those celestial dragons want you dead, or your entire country dead, then so be it. That's just how the way of the world is. And he's proud enough to say that. So we can't count on Ryoku. We know how Ryokugyu thinks thanks to his very introduction. But Kizaru, on the other hand, is that literal dude who can look at you for 5 minutes straight and you wouldn't be able to tell if he's thinking about killing you or if he's just gonna walk away. We have no idea what goes on in this man's head. Sure, some of the times he can be taken by surprise by an individual, but that moment only lasts about 5 seconds. He never gets flustered. He never gets caught off guard to the point where, well, actually, he has been caught off guard before because when he tried to use the Yatano Kagami in order to catch up with Brook and company back in Sabaody, he was stopped by Rayleigh, who used Haki to keep him from moving. Now, that wasn't a surprise moment. It was just like he just straight up interrupted him. But when it comes to Kizaru, this dude never shows any emotion other than complete nonchalance. And the fact that we never see any other emotion on him other than complete nonchalance makes him the scariest admiral to deal with. Not the dude that basically uses the first Hokage's jutsu throughout his entire body. Not the man who can manipulate gravity to the point where he can grab meteors from space. But the dude who can just create light and explosions. He's the one to fear out of all of them simply because we never know what he's going to do. So yeah, seeing what happens when Kizaru starts to fight again. See, because the last time Kizaru fought was during the Paramount War, during the War of the Best, during the Marineford War, whichever title you want to give that big battle. That was the last time we saw him fight. We've never seen him do anything else after that except, clipping his nails in a Kainu's office, just nonchalantly. Dude didn't have no napkin on the floor or anything. He was just clipping his nails in the office. Just in the office. Like, do they have someone to come in and sweep that up? Because you ain't going to be clipping your nails in my room and then you going to leave. And you don't get it up. You don't get the vacuum out the corner. You don't get it up. You ain't just going to be clipping your nails in my room and then act like, hey, you want me to go over there? No, I want you to get them nails up first. But we haven't seen him do anything. The most latest appearance we have of him is him traveling with Jay Garcia. Now, here's another thing, though. When we saw him with Jay Garcia, Kizaru was around Jay Garcia's size. So that stands to reason that the Gorosei are some tall dudes. Because Jay Garcia was sitting in a chair, and Kizaru was like slightly above him in height, with Jay Garcia sitting down. Him sitting down is roughly around the size of Kizaru to a certain degree. So it's either like the people of the Gorosei are just massively tall, or Kizaru is very tall. But I believe the ship is very big for them because they're tall individuals, because all the chairs look normal in comparison to Kizaru's size, and Kizaru and them are just some big jokers. But that is all the notes for chapter 1074. So let me move on to 1075. Need Kizaru to blitz and one-shot Lucci as his entrance. Look, if Kizaru comes in and just one-shots anyone, that's probably going to be the scariest thing we see in One Piece. Because it's going to be all like, okay, so we're about to have Sabaody Archipelago all over again. Where Kizaru was just one-shotting all of the supernovas the moment he showed up. Like, like, he's just going to come in and he's just going to be, as I said, I'm here too. That's what I said in Japanese. And he just kicks people all over the Labo phase. You should see chapter 793 with Sakazuki talking to them and he's 10 feet tall. Let me go to it.
Since I have an account at Viz, I'm able to look at all of the chapters. That's a benefit. Since I have a membership.
So you say chapter 793. Chapter 793. That's volume 79. The benefits of having physical volumes. All right. This is in during the Dressrosa arc, chapter volume 79. Oh snap, some of these still got the security tabs in there. Chapter, okay, where is chapter 792? 793, Tiger and Dog. Alright, and this is when Fujitoro was bowing his head towards King Riku. Yeah. And this is when Akainu is talking to the Gorosei, saying, I want you to put an end to this at once. He's saying, like, so you're telling me that the whole mistaken mess about Doflamingo leaving the Warlords was on orders from even higher than you all? I want you to put an end to this at once. And then they're all like, don't talk back to us, Sakazuki. Your honor is a trifling matter. The Navy is just the outward face of the world government. So he's standing there. And the other guys, yeah, they're tall. He's 10 feet tall. Akainu is 10 feet tall, and you have the other members of the Gorosei who are standing a little distance away from Sakazuki, and the other dude, the dude that has like the swept back hair, and the person that everyone thought, like, is he related to Sanji because he has blonde hair, and everyone thought that he was Sanji's dad. That dude is pretty much around the same height, if not just an inch taller than Akainu. So all of the members of the Gorosei are potentially massively tall individuals, if not just this dude, the youngest looking guy, or the dude with the super long pointy mustache and super long beard. So these jokers is tall. Even though we see like Jay Garcia Saturn and the dude with the world's biggest mustache all sitting down all the time. The other three are standing up, but they're tall. They are tall. And this dude, the Gandhi-looking guy, his sword is bigger than one of the chairs in this panel. I can't show it because of obvious reasons, but this dude they're massive. These people are big. If Sakazuki wanted to, he could have his own maid technically butler, but I don't like Green Bull's attitude. I'll call him a maid. I'm still gonna stick with calling Ryokugyu a fanboy. Sakazuki is a pretty big guy, though he's actually taller than Kizuru. Yeah, but these jokers is tall. These jokers is big. Alright? These jokers are entirely big. But we need how tall is Kaido? He's about 22 feet. He's around the same size as Big Mom. 22 feet tall. Hold on. I got nothing but time today, but you and I are still gonna talk later, Gajiel. 23, actually. 23 feet, 3 inches and a half. 23 feet, 3 inches and a half. That's how big he is. He's pretty much around the same size as Big Mom. 23 feet tall. Mm-hmm. Let me put my book back. You would be playing basketball, dunking on fools. Gajiel, you would be bigger than the entire goal. You wouldn't be dunking. You would just be dropping the ball into the goal. That's how big 22 feet is. You are taller than the backboard. But we need to continue on. We still got 2 other chapters. So, chapter 1075, Labo Phase Death Game. Hold on. There we go. Now I want to get the quick references up here. All right. So, in this chapter, Shaka is looking on the feed. Big Mom's 28 feet, I think, but remember, she has a huge head, while Kaido's is tiny like the guy in Beetlejuice. It kind of is, isn't it? He's very top-heavy in comparison to the rest of his body. Like, his body is weirdly proportioned. I think out of everyone, of all the Yonkos, Whitebeard and Shanks are pretty much the most normal proportioned dude, even though Whitebeard is massively tall. Big Mom and Kaido are the abnormally shaped people. Big Mom is just big and fat, while Kaido is just pure upper body, pure torso, with his little legs down at the bottom, looking like one of them big dudes from Psychonauts. But, in chapter 1075, Labo Phase Death Game, Shaka is trying to find out his legs are practically non-existent. Oh, they exist, but they don't do much. They exist, but they're not doing anything outside of existing. But let's get back to the chapter. We still got this chapter and the next one to go over, because the last one... So, Shaka is calling in for Pythagoras, but he ain't answering because he got caught up in an explosion. And he's saying, was it an accident? Hopefully he wasn't caught in its miss. Building C, Camp Snail number 12, give me a pan. And as that's going on, he sees someone in the feed, and then someone puts their hand up in this feed, we don't see who it is, and they blow up the camera. Someone is going throughout all the cameras in the Labo phase, making sure that Shaka is not able to, see basically anything around the lab. They're cutting off all visual. Not only has the communications for the entirety of Egghead been constantly looped so that no word can get outside of Egghead, but now someone is inside the Labo phase cutting all the visual feeds so that they're pretty much dead in the water. And as this is going on, all feeds are getting cut off over and over, with Luffy getting up. And apparently the earpiece that he's been using to be able to hear everyone, that's being cut off as well. And Zoro's kind of curious as to what's going on. Then it cuts to the different buildings, building A, B, and C, where other Straw Hats are, along with some other members of the satellites, like Nami and Brook are with Edison. We have Atlas, Robin, and Chopper, who are walking through another different building. Nami gets enamored by these industrial jewels that she picks up an entire backpack and starts to take all the jewels with her, because, she's addicted to it. Then you got Atlas, Chopper, and Robin walking through the second floor of Building A, which also has a spot where Vegapunk is pretty much able to grow his own functioning organs. And Chopper, being a doctor, is enamored by the thought that the ability to have an endless supply of creatable organs could be such a massive benefit for the medical world, which is what I said before. Imagine, it is so tricky nowadays, and I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's like trying to find the right type of organ to go with a person for a transplant. Plus, not everyone is going to have, an available heart every single time, and most people who have a good heart are probably still using it. So, imagine a technological advance where vat-grown organs that can just be sent off one after the other, and they function as well, if not better, than regular organs, just over to however many hospitals could really need these organs for transplants, heart transplants, and liver transplants, and kidney transplants, lung transplants, whatever organs need transplanting. Imagine just how much of a benefit this would have to the medical world to have these just on hand. You ain't got to wait for a person to die in order for you to get a working organ from them. You can just have the ones you have on standby frozen if you need to, and then put that in that person. Just imagine how much more beneficial the medical world would have with this. So my thoughts on what is possibly going to happen to Egghead puts all of this advancements into jeopardy. But we'll get to it when we get to the last page. But Chopper is completely set beside himself, seeing like growable organs. And Robin, being like the, macabre individual she is, like, what is her name? Jenna Ortega. And what is that other girl's name from? What is that other girl's name? The one that's always the actress who's always who always plays characters with deadpan expressions, and she's always doom and gloom. I don't know if was she in Park and Recreation, or was it she wasn't in The Office? Because they just have a video of her up on Twitter where they're acting like their characters. I forget what her name is, but Robin is being all super macabre, saying like, "I thought Audrey Plaza, thank you." Robin is just constantly embracing her inner Aubrey Plaza, saying like, "I thought these were dismembered bits of Vegapunk." And then it cuts to command room, 4th floor in Building A, where Luffy is talking to Shaka, who's nicknamed Helmet, saying like, what's going on, because no one can get in contact with anybody. All the feed, pretty much the vast majority of the feeds are down. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 cameras are down, and they keep going down because something is destroying all of them. And Shaka comes to the conclusion that there's someone here inside the lab. Now, here's a question I'd like to ask. Is the figure we see actually visible to the characters, or only us? Because if so, then Shiryu is an option, but if the character can, then I think it's S-Shark. Now, here's the thing. We see a shadowed silhouette inside the camera feed of one of these panels. It's actually in the same panel in page 2, where Shaka says, a figure, and we see a hand reaching towards it, but we don't see we don't see like the contours of the face. We just see like a head-like shape that is massively blurry and obscured by dust, but we do see 2 eyes, but we don't know what it is. Now, it could be S-Shark, or it could be another Seraphim that we just haven't seen yet, because the ones we know of are S-Shark, S-Snake, S-Hawk, S-Bear, and I think those are the only 4 we know of. Yeah, those are the only 4 that we know of at the moment. I might be missing one. Or I could be wrong. But we don't know if the same one that's taking out the cameras are the same pacifistas that we've seen thus far. But they come to the conclusion that someone is inside the lab. Then we cut to the 2nd floor of Building B, as Jinbei is there with Stussy, and Sanji, being the simp smoke that he is just watching, enamored by Stussy. Okay, then I'm leaning more towards S-Shark or another Seraphim. I only say S-Shark because we don't know where S-Shark currently is. That's a very good point. We don't know where S-Shark is. Matter of fact, we haven't seen S-Shark ever since the Seraphim decided to side with the Satellites and the Straw Hats when they were standing against Lucci and Kaku, when they made their way up to the Labo phase. And they made their way up to the Labo phase before the laser grid got turned on. Mind you, we only saw like S-Hawk, S-Bear, and S-Snakehead up there, but we did not see S-Shark. He's the only one who's unaccounted for. So either he made it in and he's acting on orders that lies outside of Vegapunk's jurisdiction, or he's not there and this is a new individual altogether. Either one of those 2 things. But that's a very good point. We still haven't seen where S-Shark is. And since he can hide and swim in surfaces, in any surface, simply because he has Senor Pink's power in him, he could be hiding all this time. And that's the reason why no one's been able to get a beat on him, is because he keeps swimming everywhere underground to get away from the cameras. And he just blasts them, then he just goes swims under the ground and whatever. That's just a theory. It's just a theory. But it may be S-Shark, or it could be someone else altogether. But Sanji's there with Stussy and Jinbei as they're looking through a lab, and then it cuts to Usopp, York, Lilith, and Frankie, and they're all looking around in the 3rd floor of Building C. I thought I heard something outside my window. That's weird. I heard like this crackling sound, like you know how plastic crackles, and I'm thinking, what is over there that's crackling? Because I haven't touched anything. I haven't moved from this spot. Which would make sense since his devil fruit, he can travel through walls. True. But my thing is, how would he get up there unless he used one of the pipes to swim through in order to get up to the labo face? That's just a thought. But as Usopp and Frankie and company are walking towards the area where Pythagoras was blasted, we see Pythagoras' body. But Pythagoras is fine, as his head is detachable and it has its own little special legs that are walking. And as this is going on, and they're arguing, Pythagoras is all like, huh, where's York? And York is right there in front of S-Snake, who promptly turns her to stone. And she just falls over. And everyone is surprised to see S-Snake, with Lilith saying, why, you're a Seraphim. Seraphim, stop. Who said you could do this? And Seraphim Hancock basically just blasts the entire area. Now, my thing is, she blasts in the direction of where York was. She blasts in the direction of where York was. We see Usopp falling. We see Lilith, the head of Pythagoras, and Frankie falling off of the destroyed bridge that they were walking on, but we do not see the complete stone body of York. We just see a bunch of rubble. We just see a bunch of rubble from the point of impact. And they all land on the ground, but we do not see York among them. And everyone else lands safely except Usopp, who falls headfirst into the ground. And as this is going on, they're all trying to get in contact with Shaka, but the communications are being jammed. So not only are the cameras being taken out of, but they're not even able to be in communication with anyone with like a comm link with them, because communications have been cut off as well. So they're pretty much dead in the water in terms of communicating with anyone outside of the group that they're in. So they can't even tell other people that the Seraphim are attacking everyone. With Lilith going, don't even joke about that. You know we can't beat them in a fight. We created them to be the ultimate form of humanity. And it just shows S-Snake just smiling, looking at them. Then it cuts to the command room, as Zoro is already on his feet, as S-Hawk and S-Bear are standing there, preparing to, fight them as well. And Shaka says, S-Hawk, S-Bear, stop. Whose orders are you following? And Zoro says, is that going to stop them? Good, they were going after CP0 too. If I let those guys get slaughtered with handcuffs on, it'll leave a bad aftertaste. Because he would rather fight them without the handicap. Otherwise, it'll be like, well, these dudes lost and we beat them, but they got blasted while they were handcuffed. Like, he's honorable. Zoro, he has no qualms about cutting anyone down, but as long as it's in an honorable type way. Like, he's not going to kill anyone who's left defenseless, because he's just not that type of individual. So having Kaku and Lucci killed in this manner is basically beneath him. He would rather save them to beat them later than let them die in a kind of like dishonorable type way. Why did I say unhonorable? Dishonorable type way. But then it cuts to S-Bear and S-Hawk preparing to basically blast them. Not only does it show a blast, it's a combination of a big mouth blast from S-Bear and a gigantic slash from S-Hawk. And both Kaku and Lucci wake up because of all the commotion. Because Shaka comes to the conclusion, like, what? If they're not If they're not obeying me, that would mean that Vegapunk gave them their orders, which we find out is not the case. And if the downed radio and being trapped inside the barrier were all planned from the start, then someone is trying to kill us all. And Lucci and Kaku wake up going, kill us all. You Seraphim think we're a big joke? Straw Hat, Roronoa, say we hit pause on old scores and team up for a bit. Take off these cuffs and we can help. And both Luffy and Zoro have the exact same look on their faces that Odin and Whitebeard had when it came to Odin wanting to join on Whitebeard's ship and Toki wanting to join on Whitebeard's ship. They all had that look of, I don't wanna. They have that type of face, and Kaku's all like, you don't seem to like that. So that's pretty much the end of chapter 1076. So going over the quick notes here, Shaka notices an unknown figure destroying the cameras of the laboratory surveillance system. The Straw Hats have split into groups to search for Vegapunk. Luffy and Zoro remain with Shaka. Nami and Brook are paired with Edison. Chopper and Robin are paired with Atlas. Sanji and Jinbei are paired with Stussy. Usopp and Frankie are paired with Lilith and York. Usopp's group finds Pythagoras, who survived the explosion. The Seraphim have begun attacking the satellites and Straw Hats. York is turned to stone by S-Snake, who then attacks Usopp's group. S-Bear and S-Hawk are attacking Luffy's group. Shaka speculates that Vegapunk, in parentheses, has given the Seraphim orders to kill everyone present. Lucci and Kaku have woken up. Realizing that the Seraphim are ordered to kill them as well, Lucci and Kaku propose a temporary alliance with Luffy and Zoro, which neither one of them really like at all. So I have another theory in mind, which is, piggybacking off of what someone said to me during the reaction of chapter 1076 once we get into it, and it seems plausible, but also scary at the same time. So, getting to chapter 1076, hold on, let me go back. 1076, Old Friends, it shows the aftermath of the attack that S-Hawk and S-Bear have left on the environment. It shows like a massive crack in the ground and a big old crater where the point of impact happened from the blast of S-Bear. And Kaku is all like, now that's, with Zoro going like, if we take off your handcuffs so you can fight, I can't possibly see you submitting to them again. And then it cuts to Kaku, who goes, now that's just not true. Once we're clear of the present danger, we'll play nice and go right back into the handcuffs. And Luffy, not paying much attention to this comment, or the underlying lie that it is, he goes like, nice sounds good to me. And Zoro screams, yeah, he's lying, he's obviously lying. And then it cuts to S-Hawk, who speeds towards them, but we see that the sword, his big old Mihawk replication sword, is still on his back. He kicks towards Zoro and the group. He doesn't slash with his sword, he just kicks towards them. Because we all come to the conclusion, and so does Zoro, is that S-Hawk has powers just like S-Snake, which happens to be the Super no Mi, the dice fruit of one Mr. One. So, not only is S-Hawk a dangerous Seraphim because he knows how to use a sword just like Mihawk, which is capable of pretty much splitting apart the mountain of Amazon Lily, but he doesn't need to solely rely on the sword for him to fight. His whole body is the weapon. He's able to unleash slashes the same size as if he was using a sword, using any part of his body. So that already makes this particular Seraphim far more dangerous than any of the other Seraphim that we've seen thus far. And then it cuts to Kaku, who says, see, Roronoa, are you going to lug us around every time we need saving like this? And then it cuts to Shaka, who goes, may I ask what mission brings you here, CP0? And Lucci just nonchalantly tells him the assassination of the 7 Vegapunks. And Kaku's all like, confidentiality, we can't be talking about secret mission briefings. Not to his face, Lucci, come on! I like it since we see the Yoru he has is not a black blade and not as good as the actual Yoru. This is a good way to make up for that. Kinda is, because who's to say that the Seraphim could even use Haki? That's a thought. Are they even capable of using Haki? Or since they're manufactured beings, they lack willpower necessary for Haki to be even accessible to them? That's a thing. Because if we never see them use hockey, that could be the reason why they're not actually able to access it. They simply lack actual genuine human willpower at all in order to use hockey. They are manufactured cyborgs, after all. I wouldn't say cyborgs, but they're pretty much manufactured humans. So who's to say if they have that aspect of their bodies that would allow them to even produce hockey at all? That's just a thought. But Lucci just nonchalantly tells him, like, we're here to assassinate you. And Kaku's trying to be all like, come on, don't tell him to his face. And then Stussy asks, and I presume that you've got something in store for Stussy as well after she betrayed you. And Lucci, once again, without batting an eye, says, yes, she will pay the price. And Kaku's all like, dude, you're not making our lives easier. Stop talking. Stop talking. Please, Lucci, stop talking. He says, for the love of, are you trying to ruin this for us? And then it cuts to someone screaming. And it cuts to Luffy, who says, that scream was Nami. I bet all 4 of them are raising heck in here. Oh, wait, that was Zoro who says, that scream was Nami. I bet all 4 of them are raising heck in here. How many people we gotta protect on top of the Vegapunks? And then it cuts to Luffy, who goes, helmet, cuff keys. I'll let you make that call. Just be sure you protect this. And then Lucci, and then okay, so here it cuts to Luffy actually tossing Stella the keys. But then I didn't notice this. Luffy tosses Shaka, not Stella, tosses Shaka the keys. But Shaka tosses them back to him, says like, yeah, I'm going to let you be the one to make that call. Just be sure you protect Stella. And then Luffy releases by far the biggest burn, the farthest, most hardest hitting throw of shade that we've seen in the series thus far, with him looking at Lucci going, after we've stopped all 4 of them, you better not go after my friends and the Vegapunks just because you can't beat me in a fight. Got that? Like, imagine. Luffy talking down to Lucci. Remember, it wasn't so long ago. I know it's been plenty of years since the events of Enies Lobby, but chronologically, it's only been 2 years since those events. Imagine the very individual that you had absolutely no problem talking down to when you beat him multiple times because you thought you were stronger than him, being the one to come back 2 years later and not only were you not able to even injure him in your first skirmish in 2 years, but he bodied you repeatedly and then delivers this as he stares at you saying like, you better not go after my friends in the Vegapunks just because you can't beat me in a fight. And obviously Luffy is baiting Lucci. Don't be stupid, these guys aren't gonna take that bait. That's just fine with me, you're the one I mean to kill before anyone else, Straw Hat. And once you're out of the picture, know that all your friends will be dead soon after. And then Zoro just realizes, like, he took the bait. And then it shows S-Bear preparing a Urusisishoku. And he just launches it towards Luffy and the group as we see the handcuffs of Kaku and Lucci fall off, the entire upper half of the main Labo Phase building getting blown off, Luffy going in gear 4th, flying towards S-Bear with Gum Gum King Kong Gun, with him saying, sorry, Bonnie, because the fact that the Seraphim looks like Kuma, and Lucci assuming his leopard form as Luffy releases Kong Gun and Lucci releases Rokugan against him, 6 King pistol, and he sends the S-Bear flying, whereas S-Hawk is preparing to defend himself from Zoro and Kaku, as Kaku uses Tempest Kick White Thunder, and Zoro uses Purgatory Onigiri. And they both send the impacts from these attacks send both of the Seraphim flying straight through the building. Not into the wall, but straight through the building. That's how hard of an impact it was. Then we cut to inside the lab, and apparently a holding cell that no one has ever seen. And inside these holding cells are the missing CP agents from CP5, 7, and 8. And they've been in there for 2 months. They've been in there for 2 months without anything to eat. Now, my thing is, these jokers must be abnormal for them to survive for 2 months without a real bite to eat. They've been in there for a minute. And we come to find out that these individuals came to investigate Egghead 2 months ago, and we're about to leave the island when Sea Beast's weapons attacked and drove us back here. Then the other Cypher Poles who came to look into our disappearance ended up in the exact same situation. Now we have an individual who's outside of the holding cells, but they're chained up, listening to all of this, as the one CP agent goes, not CP0, but CP agent says, "You'll forgive us if we assume that you are the one behind this, Dr. Vegapunk," as we see the Stella, the main body, who is back to his old man status, which means that, like Bonnie said, the aging effects of her devil fruit power are indeed temporary, and he's back to being old again. But it turns out that Vegapunk is trapped down here like the rest of these CP agents, which means someone put him down here. So Stella isn't the traitor, then it has to be Shaka. Now, you're saying that, and even though it sounds kind of plausible because he has access to all these systems, he knows about everything that's going on, but what does he benefit? What does Shaka benefit by? If Shaka was indeed the traitor, what benefit is it to him to tell everyone that the Seraphim are going against his orders and they're trying to kill everyone there? That would just put people on edge rather than try and make it so that the Seraphim can do their jobs and kill everyone. If he truly was the traitor, either this is a significant facade that he's putting on in order to make sure that his plan goes on smoothly, or Shaka just isn't the traitor and it's someone else entirely. That's just how I feel about it. But Vegapunk is trapped down here, along with these trapped CP agents. Sorry, I had no idea to think that all of this was happening on Egghead right under my nose. So, the fact that Vegapunk says that he has absolutely no idea that this was happening for 2 straight months on his own island, where he has surveillances everywhere, means that there's a mole of some kind on Egghead that Vegapunk has not been aware of for 2 straight months. And they've been trapping CP agents down here for 2 months in order to keep any information about what's going on Egghead a secret. And yet at the same time, my question is, why? Because Vegapunk continues, that means trouble, and it explains one other thing. There shouldn't have been any way for the government to find out about the poneglyph research happening here. So, like I said, someone has been watching and divulging secrets about what Vegapunk was really doing on the island to the world government, and that's the reason why they sent CP0 out there to kill him, along with all the rest of these different ships. This literally is the Ohara incident all over again, and the world government wants to wipe this slate clean. Now, I'll get to why I say that a little bit later on, but yeah. There shouldn't have been any way for the world government to find out about the poneglyph research happening here. There shouldn't have been any way for the world government to find out that he was looking into the poneglyphs and he learned the true history of the world. He learned it. He learned it. He knows it. He knows it. The very thing that the world government doesn't want anyone to know, especially the Godosei and above, he knows. But no one should have known that he knows already. So either we have a traitor amongst the satellites, or there's another person that's there that knows this information, that has been secretly communicating with the world government in order to tell them. But my questioning is, why hold all these world government intelligence agencies here on the island if you wanted to get this information to the world government in the first place? Why trap the individuals who could relay this information back? The actual CIA of One Piece. Why would you keep them hostage? Unless there's something else going on here where you don't even want these CP agents to know. But it's like, it's kind of conflicting. You understand? Why would you keep these people who are who are pretty much linked to the Central Intelligence Agency of One Piece and keep them from relaying information to the world government, only for the world government to still find out and then come and try and kill basically everyone on the island? Why even hold these people hostage? It's a possibility that there's more than one suspect. It's a very distinct possibility because we haven't seen everything of Egghead. We've only seen like the junkyard, we've only seen like the Fabrio phase, and we've only seen like the Labo phase. And maybe a little bit of the sewer system that Luffy and company were going through when they first met with Bonnie and started traveling through this island. But we don't know everything there is to know about Egghead. Neither do we know everything there is to know about every single working person that is there on Egghead. We only know of the satellites and Vegapunk, Sentomaru, the Seraphim, and the Mark III Pacifistas. But we know next to nothing about literally anyone else who is on that island, or what that island completely comprises of. We don't know where everything is on Egghead. There's literally could be any number of things that we have not taken into account of the events that are happening on the Fabrio phase. Of Egghead, not just the Fabio phase, but Egghead itself. It's the hidden Vegapunk 00. See, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if Oda throws us a curveball like there's another satellite, but he didn't turn out quite right, so Vegapunk had him sealed or whatever, or someone else said that it was Punk Records itself that called in the world government. But I'm thinking, like, what's about to happen to Egghead? Because I said this when we got to this specific end of this, when Vegapunk says there shouldn't have been any way for the government to find out about the poneglyph research happening here. And then it shows that base G9 has left port. That puts the total fleet heading for Egghead at over 100 ships in total. And then someone says, roger that. So about over 100 ships are making their way towards Egghead. Now, mind you, the last time we got a Buster Call, it comprised of 10 mega ships, like 10 monstrously large battleships. Just 10. The last time we got a Buster Call was on Enies Lobby during the events of, because of Spandam accidentally hitting the Buster Call button, Den Mushi, and calling a Buster Call to, like the Gates of Justice and Enies Lobby as a whole. We only seen 10 ships then. We got over 100 making their way to this entire island. Let me say that again. We got over 100 ships making their way over to Egghead. Why over 100 ships? Why? Because we're about to have another Ohara incident all over again. These 100 ships are going in there to level Egghead to the ground. Why? Because Vegapunk knows too much. He knows of the history of the world, and since he's a super smart person, they see him as an absolute threat against their rule. Regardless of how much of a benefit he has been to humanity, him simply knowing the history of a world is not only a prerequisite for his immediate death, but also for them to destroy basically everything he has ever done on his main laboratory island. So all those ships, like I theorized, in my initial reaction, I honestly feel they're bringing all those ships to completely level Egghead. All the way. I still think it's Punk Records or maybe the Seraphim, but I'm leaning more towards Punk Records, which could also be considered as a Vegapunk on the Seraphim command structure. Can't believe they had the gall to send only 4 ships to take over Wano after the battle, such an insult. Literally, how are any of them getting out of this? That's the question! That's the question, okay? Things look massively dire. I said that this is in the description. This is in the description of the stream. Everything is massively dire. Not only is someone trying to not only are they trapped inside the Labo phase of Egghead, where they literally physically cannot get out under penalty of getting caught in the laser grid and blown up, but also the Seraphim have turned on literally everyone inside of the Labo phase and is attempting to kill all of them. Did I say Seraphim or Satellites? Yeah, Seraphim are all inside of the Labo phase, save for S-Shark, we don't know his location, and they're trying to kill everyone for orders that were given by people unknown. But not only that, that's just stuff that's happening on Egghead right now, because we still have Kizaru and one of the Gorosei that are making their way to Egghead as well. And with 100 ships, I love the Sunny, I really do. It's a great ship. It is shown to be capable of surviving numerous types of punishments, but over 100 ships though? How are you getting out of this? How is any of them getting out of this? You realize how much parking space over 100 ships take up? A lot. Ships are big. Marine ships are big. Over 100? That's overkill. Think about it. That's overkill. You can get so much done with 10 ships, especially 10 big mega ships that are called in for a buster call. You can get so much done with that. But why over 100? That's the epitome of overwhelming force. Over 100 ships? Kizaru alone is already a problem, but him plus 100 ships surrounding the island, like, that's my thing, Karma. That's my thing. I don't know how this is going to turn out. None of us do. How are they going to get out? Unless we see the Straw Hat fleet roll up and carve out a way for them to get up there, I don't know how the Straw Hat all the Straw Hats are going to get out. Because the only force I know that has an equal amount of force to like over 100 ships is pretty much the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. If they were to just straight up show up. Think about it. They got it. Matter of fact, let me bring that up. Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Ready for Grand Fleet? Look, over 100 ships? I know Luffy's strong. I know Zoro is strong. I know Sanji is strong. I know Jinbei is strong. I know all the satellites and all the pacifistas, all 50 of them, they're strong. But you gotta think about this. Why over 100 ships going to this one island? Feels like this arc could last more than a day since the Navy is waiting for G9, wherever that is. Luffy needs to pull out his Looney Tunes powers and work his magic. If Big News Morgans pulls out the big news, you know Grand Fleet is going to pull up. Look. Let me go over here to the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Just so we can get a good estimation of the numbers on the Grand Fleet itself. All right, so combined bounties equal up to about 10 billion. 10 billion bounties of everyone who is a significant number in there. Let me see. In total, there are at least 5,640 members from 7 crews, which is the crew of the Tontadas, the Beautiful Pirates, the Barto Club, the Hoppo Navy, the Idio Pirates, the New Giant Warrior Pirates, and the Yonta Maria Grand Fleet, with allies being the Riku family and Isabella II. So, the ships we have is one from Cavendish, the sleeping white horse of the forest. We have Bartolomeo with his Going Luffy Senpai. We have Sai with 1 Hoppo Sai and 7 Ippo Sai. We have Idio with an unnamed ship, formerly the Nita Maria. We have Leo with the Uso Land. We have Harudin with the Naglfar. And then we have Orlumbus with the 1 for the Yonta Maria, 5 with the Santa Maria, and 50 with the Nita Maria. Mind you, none of this measures up to 100, though. So we have 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 19, and then 19 plus 50. That just equals up to 19 plus 50, that's just 69. That's 69 ships. If all of them were to join up. Now, Orlumbus has the biggest numbers out of everyone because he has his own personal Grand Fleet with 4,300 members. But there's not enough ships to contend with over 100 ships of the Navy. That's how big the Straw Hat Grand Fleet is. It is not 100 ships strong. Now, mind you, there's a lot of strong people that comprise this fleet, but over 100 ships, plus one of the Gorosei, whose combat capabilities we have no idea about, and Kizuru, he's there as well. I'm just thinking, how are they going to get out of this? How are they going to get out of this? How are they going to get out of this situation? And we're not even done with this chapter, okay? We're still stuck on the whole aspect of how is anyone going to survive this massive encounter of over 100 Navy ships that's making their way towards Egghead. Over 100. Because now we cut to an island in the New World in a bar at a little port along the coast. And we cut to the Red Force. Now, mind you, it should have been telling for me to know that we were on Elbaf because the size of the big bar, the size of the bar is pretty much the same size as Shanks' ship. It didn't dawn on me until a moment ago. But the size of the bar is pretty much the same size as his ship. Because it cuts to people, it cuts to Shanks drinking, it cuts to numerous people eating. The question is how many fodder Marines is going to come with those 100 ships. That's a good point, but at the same time, imagine 100 ships firing all at once. People are fast, but not fast enough to pretty much deflect over, because there are more cannons than there are numbers of ships. There's more cannons on a Marine ship than there are. There's more cannons than there are the number of ships that are coming. So imagine all these cannons pointed towards Egghead. There's over 100 ships, but there's more than over 100 cannons on these ships. Sure, you can have like fodder people on there all the time, but the fodder doesn't matter if the cannons are firing all at once, just over and over again, a constant barrage of cannon fire. You got fast people, very fast people, but not fast enough to pretty much deflect and repel every single cannon that is firing on the island all at once. That's just one thing to take in consideration. That's just simply too many. So something else has to happen. Also, I believe that Shanks' pants have changed. He's no longer wearing the same pants he had before. Plus, Bartolomeo might not even show up if Shanks has confronted him already. Exactly. Because last we saw the Bartolomeo, he was going through Shanks' territory, ripping off flags and putting Luffy's face up in its place. The world government did not want the lab destroyed. So now with that happening, because now it pretty much does away with my theory of Egghead becoming another Ohara incident. Because now the more I think about it, the world government probably wouldn't mind losing Vegapunk, but they would probably keep his research. But if that's the case, why give the orders for the Seraphim to just nonchalantly attack them all over again, and just pretty much put the risk of destroying the entire lab itself in an attempt to kill everyone inside of the Labo phase? That's just one caveat there. But we cut to a new island in the New World, and people are chilling, everyone's drinking and eating, being merry, and then this one kid is saying, like, I want to join on Shanks' crew, and then Rockstar comes in, who's on Shanks' crew, says, hey, Captain, he actually attacked us. The young fellas are squabbling now. What do we do? This is bound to turn into a fight. And then Shanks says, can't tell if his timing's the best or the worst, just when we're about to set sail, too. Not even ripping them, burning them. That's like a declaration of war against a Yonko in a way. Enel is going to show up with his moon minions. Enel and his moon minions. And then it cuts to Shanks getting up and putting his giant sake dish down, going, think I spent a little bit too much time talking. But you can't blame us for wanting to catch up when old friends who thought each other dead are reunited. And then Beckman says, our enemy must be furious. And it cuts to Lucky Roo, who's laughing, saying, that's rich coming from you, Beck. who do you think he's mad at? Pretty much confirming that Ben Beckman was the one who took Kid's arm. And I was thinking about this when I was in the shower earlier before I did this stream. This man, Ben Beckman, who we see just straight up using a gun all the time, took off an arm from Kid. We don't even see this man use a sword. This dude is always using guns. This man somehow took off the arm of Kid. Before he could even get to Shanks. But Luckaroo says, yeah, that's rich coming from you, Beck. Who do you think he's mad at? And then Shanks just says, we sail. Are we fighting, Captain? And then it cuts to the boy saying, is there going to be a war, Shanks? And then, the barmaid is just getting enamored with Shanks saying how much of a stud he is. And Shanks walks away with two silhouetted giant individuals behind him going, I don't want to see major harm come to this place. Will you help me with that, Dory and Broggy? And we haven't seen Dory and Broggy in a hot minute. As we get to see our favorite, sure thing, brother. You're gonna fight Red Hair? And we see that Shanks is just chilling here in the land of the giants. This is Elbaf, land of proud warriors. Like, right here, I see Ben Beckman. This man is just carrying, because Ben Beckman doesn't carry his gun like normal people. He doesn't. He carries it by the barrel on his shoulder like he's carrying a giant sword. He doesn't have like a strap where it's just strapped onto his back. He just carries it like he's wielding a giant club. So either way, he either blew off Kid's arm, and I'm thinking like, what kind of hockey nonsense is he using for him to blow off a whole arm? Then I think about how he was able to, intimidate Kizaru and have him raise his hands and Kizaru say Ben Beckman without even actually, say the words. He's like, ooh, Ben Beckman. Like, he said Ben Beckman, but we never see his lips touch together to say the letter B. But it was weird. But either one of two things. Either Beckman sliced his arm off or he blew Kid's arm off completely with his gun. But yeah, we're here on Elbaf, everybody. Shanks is there. And Shanks says, before we leave, I need you to go ask something. And he's saying, like, before we go, because we still gonna go. We still leaving, all right? We still gonna leave. But before we leave, give him this message. Give Captain Kidd this message. Send this message. Do you want to fight me here and now, or leave your rope poneglyph and flee? Because Shanks is still on the plan of going to claim the One Piece. And this man, just like Blackbeard, is making the moves to get his hand on the rope poneglyphs themselves. Do you want to fight me here and now, or leave your rope poneglyph and flee? Make your choice. And then it cuts to Warland. Elbaf in the new world, as the Victoria Punk makes its way towards where Shanks is, with them saying, like, seems the ships along the shore, and the ones lazily shooting at us all belong to pirate crews, working for Red Hair the Emperor. Each one of them is known and feared. The last time, we never even got an audience with Red Hair himself, and we see Kid holding on to his missing arm as it's throbbing. Instead, we got beaten to a pulp and you lost your arm. They won't stop at an arm this time. And it shows Kid and his crew. It doesn't even show Kid and his crew. It shows Shanks and his crew, walking forward with everyone saying like, oh, it's been so long, Shanks. We even gave you tribute. And then we get Shanks being all like, we don't do that. We don't get tribute from you. We don't do that. We're friends. Don't worry about it. We're good. We're good. Don't worry about it. They won't stop at an arm this time. They'll take your life. And then Kid just goes, maybe so, but only if I lose. And it just shows Shanks standing there. I dare say that the way that Shanks is looking in this one particular panel is kind of reminiscent of the way Shanks was looking when Kid, Basil Hawkins, and Apu were saying that they were going after him when they were having that meeting before Kaido came down. It kind of looks like that. That's the way his face, that's the way Shank's face looked. It kind of looks reminiscent to how his face popped up when Kid and company said that he was going to be the Yonko that they go after. I don't know if I'm remembering incorrectly, but that's just how it looks. I need to find out what chapter that is. But that's the end of the chapter. Kid about to find out he's not that guy. Look, he should have known. Here's the thing. He got bodied by Kaido. All right? He got bodied by Kaido, and that's a direct confrontation with Kaido. This man had his arm missing, putting handcuffs and putting nude on before Luffy and company. And the thing is, he kept trying to escape, trying to find Killer, and he kept finding himself right back in Udon multiple times. The fact that Kid wasn't even able to get to Shanks himself, all this time we thought that Shanks was the one who took his arm off, but it turns out it was Ben Beckman who did it this whole time. And the dude don't even use a sword. He blew that Joker's arm off. Which chapter were you looking for? Ogata-san, with your encyclopedia knowledge, I'm looking for the chapter when Kid is talking to the rest of the Supernovas about what Yonko they're going to try and fight. Like, who's their target. Like, they find out that Law and Luffy are going after Kaido, and that's when we find out that Kid, Basil Hawkins, and Apu want to go after Shanks. Or it was a Kid and Killer who wants to go after Shanks. It was when they were talking about their next target before Kaido jumped off the Sky Island and landed directly in front of them. 793? Was it 793? Didn't I just come out of that chapter? Okay, I was wrong. His face doesn't look like that because it shows Shanks' face off to the side because Killer's the one who says, oh, and it's cool that my finger went directly to that page. I didn't even have to flip through it all that much. It cuts to them. This is in, just like Ogata-san said, thank you once again. This is a couple pages after Akainu was speaking to the Gorosei that I was just going off of. It was just a couple of pages after. This is when the Supernovas find out about Luffy and company and about them taking down Doflamingo. And Kid says, if that was well, it didn't take long for them to get the jump on us. This is quite an upset. And Doflamingo's connected with Kaido. This is going to set him off now. If that was part of their plan, it makes their goal clear. Do you think Oda is stirring the pot with the tribute line teasing us to speculate whether Shanks has Celestial Dragon lineage or not? No. Because them offering tribute to Yonkos is like the same thing for Celestial Dragons, but it's for pirates. Because Big Mom did the same thing, except she got paid in food. Kaido, I don't know if Kaido did the same thing. Big Mom did the whole tribute thing, but she just did it to people who were under her territory with food, and she did it to the people who lived in Whole Cake Island itself with their very soul. That was the tribute. That was the tax. But with Shanks, he doesn't exactly do that. And I don't think it's because he has any ties to Celestial Dragons or anything of that nature. That's just Shanks as a whole. But going back to this, this is quite an upset, and Doflamingo's connected with Kaido. This is going to set him off now. If that was part of their plan, it makes their goal clear. They want one of the four emperors, Kaido, King of the Beasts. Well, at least we're not going after the same thing. Saves us the trouble of wasting strength on them. For our goal is another emperor, Red Hair Shanks. And then it cuts to, no, all right, I just wanted your thoughts on it. Yes, you good. Kaido, I don't think did, but he was working with Orochi who was doing it. So Kaido was getting paid. Just not the traditional tribute way that other Yonkos would do. And then, of course, it shows, Diaz Drake reading the news as everyone is trying to relay this news to Kaido about Doflamingo losing. But it was back in chapter 793 when they said they wanted to go after Shanks. But, like y'all said, Kid is about to find out that he is not that guy. And if funny how all these individuals who have road poneglyphs are getting challenged and are coming across Yonkos who want their road poneglyphs. Out of the 3 groups that have road poneglyphs, Law and Kid are pretty much confronting 2 Yonkos who want their poneglyphs, with Luffy being the only Yonko thus far who has not encountered another Yonko. And I find it funny how Kid and Law were saying they were the very ones who had like an easier path to go off of, and Luffy had the harder path, but Luffy's not running headlong into another Yonko battle. They were looking at Luffy like he was an idiot for going in the direction that he went in. And mind you, the place he's gone to is no less dangerous than where Kid and Law have currently found themselves. But at least Luffy ain't got to worry about a Yonko battle at the moment. Both Law and Kid just ran into Yonkos that they're both challenging. Law against Blackbeard, and pretty soon Kid against Shanks. Like I said, I don't care what anyone says, Kid is not that individual to try and take on Shanks. Shanks may be missing an arm, but this dude did not get to the title of Yonko just based on luck and hype. There's a reason why this dude is at the position he's at and still has kept this position despite 3 whole Yonkos losing their spots. One was Whitebeard dying, and Big Mom, and the other was Big Mom and Kaido losing to 3 whole supernovas. Law and Kid versus Big Mom, and Luffy versus Kaido. Out of all of them, he's still the one who's still in his same spot. I thought it was Kid who wanted the hardest path since he and Kid wanted the same way and was bragging he got it since he won the drawing lots. Like, I still don't think that this situation is going to end very well for Kid. Because I still can't go over the fact that it wasn't Shanks that took his arm off. It was Ben Beckman. This dude shot Kid's arm off. He didn't slice it off, he shot it off. So either one of 2 things are going to happen. Either we're going to cut right back to Egghead once these chapters come back off of break. I don't think there's any person that can go against Shanks. Even if he loses, his crew will clutch it. See, I don't see Shanks losing. I'm not talking about him succeeding through plot armor. I'm just talking about pure strength. Because even with him losing an arm, he's still one of the most intimidating individuals that exists in One Piece overall. Everyone is happy to see Shanks. When everyone thinks of Shanks, they think of, oh, this man is not going to lose. Not purely based on plot and word of mouth, but simply because Shanks, just for lack of a better term, he is that man. He's like what happens whenever you see Kenpachi roll up to a situation. Someone's about to either die, or you need to shut up so that you don't die. So either one or 2 things are going to happen after this confrontation between Kid and Shanks. Either Shanks is just going to beat him into the ground, or he's going to be all like, you know what, Kid, I like you. Here's a road poneglyph. I don't know, but Shanks is not going to lose. I'll be happy to eat my words if Oda just straight up surprises us and be all like, Kid is stronger, which I highly doubt. Shanks is not going to lose this confrontation. Like I said during my initial reaction, if you can't face off against the subordinates before you even get to the boss, you are not going to win against the boss. If you can't beat the subordinates, you are not beating the boss. This isn't Fairy Tail where friendship is magic and it gives you overwhelming strength. You either skilled or you not. That's how the world of One Piece works. You're either skilled or you're not. If Kid is not able to contend with Ben Beckman in the group, especially after showing his awakened devil fruit Jiki Jiki no Mi, he ain't touching Shanks! I reread certain chapters before and have a general idea of where arcs start and end, but like Zoro, I have a bad sense of direction. Yeah, but your sense of direction when it comes to recollecting a lot of chapters that I tend to forget is phenomenal, which is why I appreciate you so much. Oh, there's no debate about Shanks losing, there's no way, but I think it's time Kid shows while he can't win, he can at least hit Shanks or even show growth by beating Ben Beckman. I mean, Kid showed growth by taking on Big Mom. He showed growth by taking on Big Mom. But I don't see Kid. I don't feel like in order for Kid to grow even more, he's got to beat one of the subordinates, because at the end of the day, we're not rooting for Kid. We're not rooting for Kid. Don't you want to see the Straw Hats beat Shanks' crew? So that Luffy can be all like, all right, I beat you, Shanks. I finally beat you and your crew. Now you can get your straw hat back. Like, imagine Luffy finding out that Kid was to somehow beat Shanks. You think he's gonna do anything else? Dumb question, but can Kid take metal that's imbued with hockey? That's a very good question. But the better question is, how strong is Ben Beckman's hockey to resist Kid's devil fruit? Remember, it's been said numerous times, we are being shown that hockey can transcend even the power of devil fruits themselves. Back when Kaido says, like, Roger conquered the entire world with only his strength in hockey. And then later on, and he says, like, only hockey can transcend all. Then we have another example of how strong hockey can be if your will is strong enough. And if your hockey is strong enough, due to Law running into Doc Q and company, and after being turned into a woman by Doc Q's sick fruit, he says, like, if your hockey is strong enough, you can even nullify the effects of devil fruit powers. And he basically resists the effect of the sick fruit in order to turn himself back into a dude again. So my thing is, it's not a matter of whether or not Kid can manipulate metal that's imbued with hockey. It's if his devil fruit powers will have an effect on people who pretty much have been shown to have nothing but strength and hockey skill alone. That's the question. Just how strong is the hockey of Shanks' entire group? And if their hockey is strong enough to resist the effects of even Kid's devil fruit power. Another thing to take into account here is that Kid has to touch these individuals with his awakened powers in order for his awakened abilities to work to that degree. But even so, even if he were to use his regular powers to magnetize metal, who's to say that it's strong enough for it to be ripped away from Shanks and his crew? That's a good question. Imagine he gets captured by Shanks, and just after he gets freed from Kaido's prison. I'm rooting for Shanks to win, but I'm rooting for Kid to not get decimated, to at least put up a good fight. See, I imagine he'll try and put up a good fight, but, I mean, it'll be a massive upset. Like, I feel like, here's the thing, and I gotta say this. I gotta say this before Oda makes it a real thing and just surprises the entire world. It will literally break the internet if Shanks were to somehow lose. I feel like the world of One Piece the fandom of One Piece would never recover if Oda decided to make it so that Shanks did not win against Kid. I'm not saying this is what Oda's going to do, but I'm just thinking hypothetically, in an alternate timeline, what if Shanks lost? Can you imagine how everyone would feel about Shanks? This man who literally carries the word hype on his shoulders every single time he shows up in a page. Imagine how everyone would look at Shanks if they see him lose. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying if. Imagine how the viewpoint of Shanks would be if Shanks were to actually lose. And not just that, but we're here. We're here talking about Shanks alone, Shanks and his crew. But Shanks is rolling up with giants, all right? Not just him and his crew. He's got a whole giant squad with him. That's another thing that's going on. Shanks is about to fight Kid and his crew, who don't have giants, with an entire squad of giants behind him. This isn't like, and it's not like giants who are just like Big Mom size. No, Big Mom is like a giant of a woman, but she's not an actual giant. Broggy, Dorian Broggy, and everyone else behind them, they're straight up giants. Shanks is rolling up with his whole crew and a bunch of giants who are his friends as well. So it's not just the red-haired pirates Kid has to worry about. He has to worry about a squad of giants who are known to be proud warriors. They literally are the Spartans of One Piece. They don't know when to stop fighting. You know how when we were first introduced to Dorian Broggy, they were fighting for years. Years when we first got introduced to him and found out that they've been fighting for countless years. So long. And Kid thinks he's just gonna roll up. He thinks he's just gonna roll up on Shanks and his crew and thinks that's gonna be the only thing he has to worry about. And you got these giant warriors who have been fighting for decades, if not centuries. No! Shanks is folding. He's gonna get folded. Not Shanks. Why did I say Shanks? Why did I say Shanks? I meant to say Kid. Strike it for the record. I meant to say Kid. Kid is going to get folded. Yeah, there's no coat for Kid. Yeah, that's my thing. I don't see Shanks losing in this situation. I don't see this individual who has enough pull to show up to the Gorosei and be all like, hey, I want to talk, when anyone else would get blasted. An individual who could just appear on Whitebeard's ship and start knocking out some of his crewmates as an intimidation tactic with hockey so strong it actually started to break Whitebeard's ship, no less, and be all like, hey, I want to talk. And then an individual who shows up on the outside skirts of an entire country then uses his hockey to intimidate an admiral from stopping whatever he's doing on the island and be all like, all right, you're going to shut up because I'm going to talk. Like every single time Shanks shows up to do something to somebody, he's all like, hi, I'm Shanks and I'm here to talk. Like every single time he shows up, everyone shuts up because he's got to talk. If it's not him showing up to stop the war at Marineford, it's him showing up to stop Ryokugyu from fighting in Wano, and he's on the outskirts of this. He's on the outskirts at this. He's not even in the region of Wano. He's outside of the country itself, and he's just projecting his hockey countrywide from the ocean. And he's just talking to Ryokugyu, even though I find it incredibly implausible for him to be able to talk from miles out into the sea. And he's all like, oh, so the Marines are so scared of this individual that you are threatening to kill everyone right now? How about you not do that? This same individual, people are saying like Shanks is about to get folded. I'm like, okay, so you didn't see these different displays of power and the man didn't even draw his sword half the time? And everyone is intimidated by Shanks? Even the Gorosei know how strong Shanks is. They respect Shanks enough to be all like, all guards in this room, leave. We're going to speak to Shanks. Which is something that they never do for anyone else. Not even their own fleet admiral Akainu. So no. Kid is not prevailing in this. He's going to get a big lesson like, you got a long way to go, kid. Just because you beat Big Mom and Kaido doesn't mean you can beat every Yonko. I'm in a whole nother league altogether. I'm the cabin boy of the world's strongest pirate in existence. I used to be on the pirate crew of the strongest pirate crew in existence after the Rocks Pirates. With the captain who basically sailed the entire world, conquered the entire world, found the One Piece, and became known as the king of the pirates. That's my captain. You're not beating me because I'd be disrespecting his memory. I'm sorry. And if something were to happen where it proves me wrong, hey, I'll accept it. I'll accept it. I'll accept it. But as it stands right now, I see no reason for me to even begrudgingly root for Kid, because this is not in his favor. It isn't. Like I said, if you can't face the subordinates, you're not facing the captain. If Ben Beckman is capable of nonchalantly taking your arm off, because we see no scars on Ben. We see no new scars on Ben. He's just chilling, smoking, carrying around his rifle like it's a big old club. If you can't handle Ben, you can't handle Shanks. I'm sorry, that's facts. Like, it's not like they're going to skip over Ben Beckman and the crew and he's going to go straight to Shanks. No, if you can't contend with everyone else in front of Shanks, then you're not worthy to take him on. But if I'm proven wrong and a different type of outcome happens other than Shanks looking at Kid like, pathetic. Like, if something happens that is completely different from Shanks winning, I'll accept that as well. But the thing is, Kid is just way too cocky. He's way too cocky. He has that Kenpachi mentality in him. It's like a big old massive Kenpachi type mentality in him, where it's like he's not gonna back down from anybody. I heard that the next chapter comes out around Shanks' birthday. Oh, okay. So we might actually continue this. We might actually continue this confrontation in this next chapter if Oda doesn't troll us with Shanks appearing and then we don't see him for at least 5 more chapters. But let's go over to chapter 176. Okay, so all the things that, well, actually, let me just read this small synopsis of the entire chapter, then we'll move on to the quick references. In a small port on a certain island, a kid asks Shanks if he can take him with him on his next journey, which Shanks refuses since the kid is a little hot-headed, much to his annoyance. One of Shanks' men comes in and informs him that they are under attack and if they should fight back. Shanks ultimately agrees, regretting that he let it get to this point due to him reconnecting with some old friends of his who he believed to be dead. His friends turned out to be Dory and Broggy, the former captains of the giant warrior pirates who finally left Little Garden and returned to Elbaf, the island Shanks is currently on. The two giants happily agree to help him out as Shanks asks Rockstar to send a message to their attacker, who is Eustace Kid. The message being, surrender the road poneglyph rubbing he has, or risk a fight with him. On the outskirts of the island, Kid realizes that practically every pirate ship they see belongs to big shots, who all swore fealty to Shanks. Killer realizes that the last time they tried to fight him, it was a completely one-sided fight. Kid never even got a chance to see Shanks. This time, Killer fears that Kid may die in this next confrontation. Kid, however, isn't scared, believing he will only die if he loses the fight. He thinks he's Kenpachi when he's actually Zomaru-Ruru. This dude thinks he's gonna roll up and be all like, subside, Brujeria. And then he's just gonna get slashed through the back by Shanks Byaku Akuchiki. So let's go over the quick chapter notes. I'll say my piece, and then I'll bring it to a close today. Chapter notes! Luffy and Zoro, and because here's the thing, I've been talking about Shanks for a hot minute, and we still have the whole matter where Luffy and Zoro are fighting the whole Seraphim situation. That was at the front of the chapter. Talking about Shanks can take up like a whole nother hour of time, because it's Shanks. Luffy and Zoro engage the two Seraphim. S-Hawk has the power of the Super no Mi. Luffy frees Rob, Lucci, and Kaku. And Lucci and Luffy attack S-Bear, while Zoro and Kaku attack S-Hawk. Vegapunk has been brought to the same spot where the missing Cypher Pole agents are held prisoner. Vegapunk is wondering how the world government found out about his poneglyph research. The world government has dispatched over 100 ships to Egghead. The red-haired pirates are on Elbaf. The great warrior pirates have reunited on the island, including Dory and Broggy, who are no longer in a feud. Shanks is acquainted with both Dory and Broggy. Shanks knows everybody. It's like you ever have You ever have like members of your family who basically know everybody in every convenience store in your immediate area, and it's all like, yeah, I knew your parents, and I grew up with them. It's like Shanks knows everybody. The Kid Pirates are at Elbaf's coast and are confronted by the Red Hair Pirates. Shanks sends a message to challenge the Kid Pirates to a battle in exchange for the poneglyph etchings the Kid Pirates have. My thing is, how do they know they got these poneglyph etchings? How do they know? Everybody knows everything. Shanks' interaction with the giant boy in the bar is reminiscent of his interaction with Luffy in Chapter 1. A young boy begging to join the Red Hair Pirates, but being rejected by Shanks before being comforted by the female bartender. Wow. 1,075 chapters later, we see the same interaction that Shanks had at the beginning of the series, except it's with a giant kid and not Luffy. History repeats itself. 1,075 chapters later. See, I was looking at it, I was like, wow, this is exactly how Luffy was. If there are more Seraphim, do you think it's just the original warlords? If so, what fruits would they give a Seraphim Moria or Seraphim Crocodile, since Vegapunk can't recreate Logia fruits? That's a good point. So now we need to take in consideration how many Devil Fruit users are currently in Impel Down right now. What members of the Doflamingo family are capable of having their powers transplanted over to a Seraphim? Because we already seen that one other member of the Doflamingo family have their powers transferred over to S-Shark with the Swim fruit. And then we have a member from Baroque Works who sided with, with Crocodile, have the Super no Mi. And Boa Hancock, that's actually a bit of a, Boa Hancock's power is in her one specific Seraphim, so it's basically just a clone of her, but it's like half Lunarian. So the question is, it really is a good question. Now, S-Bear has the powers of Kuma. S-Snake has the power of Hancock. Mihawk has the power of Mr. One. S-Shark has the power of Senor Pink. So now like I said, we need to think about all the past Devil Fruit users that had powers all the past Devil Fruit users that used to be imprisoned in Impel Down that have powers. So if I actually do this, if I actually go over to Impel Down, because I don't think he has lineage stuff for Moria, I don't know. So hopefully they'll show the former inmates. All right, so people imprisoned in Impel Down whose powers could possibly be replicated. Buggy, Galdino, Bon Clay. We already seen. I don't think he has lineage stuff from Moria, does he, to recreate the Kage no Mi? Okay, so it is a Paramecia type. All right, so I thought for some reason the Kage, the Shadow Fruit was a Logia type, but it's not. Because I don't think he has lineage stuff from Moria, does he? That's the question, though. How did he get all this blood work from these warlords in order for them to have their powers replicated? When was this done? Think about it. Because if he got it from all the warlords, it would stand to reason he got it from Moria as well. If he's able to get blood from Boa Hancock, Mihawk, and everyone else, then it stands to reason I don't see why he wouldn't be able to get blood work from Moria. But we got Buggy, we got Galdino, Mr. 3, we have Bentham, who is Mr. 2, we have Daz Bones, Luffy, obviously, but I don't think they got any blood work from him, Emporio Ivankov, Inazuma, Shiki the Golden Lion, Ace, Jinbei doesn't have a Devil Fruit, Crocodile's out of the picture because he is a Logia type, Shiryu is out of the question. Katarina Devon, San Juan Wolf, Vasco Shot, Avalo Pizarro. None of them had Devil Fruits until after the time skip, except San Juan Wolf, who already had one. Let's see. Doflamingo, that's an option. Because he has a string fruit. Senor Pink, we already know his power was taken. And then it has other people in here as well. So only a handful of these people have powers that could be replicated. But in terms of full-fledged combat ability, I don't think a good majority of their powers were replicated. I feel like the only person whose powers could be extensively replicated to help in terms of being a combat-oriented could either be Doflamingo's, and maybe... No. No, I was going to say Emporio Ivankov, but Ivankov hid away in the in like level 5.5, so I don't think there's a way that they got his blood down. But one good person that they could take powers from could be Doflamingo. Because there's not too many other people on this list that have, well, one, devil fruit powers, or we know anything about them at all. Sugar and Pika aren't an Impel Down. Well, they're not listed. They're not officially listed, even though they've been arrested as well. Senor Pink gives way to thinking that, okay, if Senor Pink is in there, then everyone else is in there as well. But we don't know the specifics of where they are. We don't know the specifics of where the other members of the Don Quixote family actually are. So any other members of the Don Quixote family could have their powers replicated, such as Gladius, or Gloria, or Pika, or even Treble. Sugar as well. All these other different... And Baby 5 is out of the question, because she's with Sai. She's his fiance, so that's out of the question. I don't know about Buffalo, though. Matter of fact, we haven't seen Buffalo in a minute. Yeah, we haven't seen Buffalo in a minute. Where was the last time we saw him? Yeah, he was arrested. He was pretty much arrested with everyone else. Imagine if S-Bat had Treble's fruit. A sticky bat? Nah. I'll pass. I'll pass on that. An artificial hobby no mi would be broken. See, that's the scary thing. If Sugar's fruit was ever replicated in any of the Seraphim, all it would take is just this Seraphim touching any member of the Straw Hats, and that not only will that person be turned into a toy, but all of the Straw Hats would just immediately forget about that person. Just flat out forget about him. So that's a scary thought. But there's just so many... we're going to be on break for this upcoming Sunday, and then afterwards we'll get the chapter. But it's like... There's so many... Buffalo got clapped by Kyros after he cut Doflamingo's head off. Yeah, he pretty much got his head just twisted. How Kyros didn't just completely snap his neck when he just put him in a headlock and kind of cracked his neck into submission, I don't know how. But he got arrested with the rest of them, so he's probably an Impel Down as well. He's just never mentioned with being an Impel Down. Senor Pink is pretty much the most recent person affiliated with Doflamingo to be said to be in Impel Down. In an official capacity, that is. But now, we just got to think about where are things going to go from here as far as the story is concerned. One, we got Shanks preparing to fight against Kid, or have him leave his road poneglyph etchings and then, get away with his life. Two, we have over 100 ships heading towards Egghead. For what ulterior purpose, we don't know. Three, someone is inside the Labo phase, having sealed everyone inside, and is currently have all the Seraphim attacking literally everyone in the hopes of them all being killed. And four, Vegapunk is sealed down there with the other Marines, with the other Cypherpole agents. and is the one pulling the strings for everything that's happening on Egghead right now. That's a lot of things to go over, and that's just things that we know of currently. We still got everything else that's happening right now outside in the world, like what's happening with Law and Blackbeard, what is literally everyone else doing. That so many questions that just these three chapters alone are just popping into my head. But that'll have to be something we cross when we get the next chapter. So hopefully some theories will be realized. Hopefully we'll get some answers. Hopefully Oda doesn't cut away from us seeing this eventual fight between the red-hair pirates and the kid pirates. But if Oda does, then I'm fine, so we can go ahead and see what's happening on Egghead. But that's all matters that we're just gonna have to see happen when we eventually get to the next chapter. How long have I been doing this today? How long has this stream been going on for? I feel like I've been going on for a hot minute. Ah, there it is. 2 hours, 15 minutes. Cross Guild still has yet to make a move. Exactly. Yeah, we got all these different things that are happening in the world right now, and it's like, there's so much going on in this final saga. This really is the end game for One Piece, and it feels like we are still years away from the end. So, we're just gonna have to see where things go from there. But that's all I got to say about One Piece. What did you guys think of this entire arc as a whole? Seriously, I want to know, because I do a lot of talking and you guys do a lot of comments. But what did you think about every chapter that we got during the month of February? And what are you hoping to see in March? My birthday month, by the way. I'm turning 31. I can't believe I'm turning 31 and I still look like I can still be questioned about whether or not I'm capable of buying a can of air by myself, because I did get asked that recently. How old are you to be buying a can of air? And it's like, I'm 31. But yeah, what do you expect to see in One Piece in March? Like, on top of you, what did you think of everything? Karma says, Abir says Oda is on fire this arc. He really is. There's so much going on, and it's really good. Karma says 175 was a filler chapter, but except that, it's been pure heat. Thought you were 17. You lying. You lying. You know how old I am. You know how old I am, Karma. You know. You know. I'm messing with you. But I thought it was pretty good. Now, mind you, chapter 1075, that was pretty much the whole chapter where it was being revealed like the Seraphim are attacking everyone. Matter of fact, let me actually pull that up. Let me pull that up again and just breeze through it real quickly, because Karma may be right. It may be like a bit of a filler chapter. Yeah, I could see that. It was pretty much just a chapter letting us know, like, hey, we got a murder mystery that's going on right now, and they're all trying to, and the murder is in progress. That's going on, but the big revelation chapters happen before this chapter and after it. So I can see that. I'm loving Egghead so far outside the world and the whole concept of Egghead. And as for stuff in March, Trader reveal, more stuff about the Seraphim, and that's from the top of my head. Chapters. So for Ogata-san, I'm assuming that the three chapters 176, chapters 76, 74, and 75, specifically in that order of best to worst chapters. I can see that. I can honestly see that. The first chapter and last chapter we got this month are in fact better than are by far the best chapters of this month. Chapter 175 was probably like was really filler. Karma's right. It was a bit of a filler. But the first chapter we got and the last chapter we got in this month were absolutely amazing, especially chapter 1076, which shows Shanks preparing to fight Kid. It's like, you can't get any more hype than this, but Oda's going to do it. Oda's going to do it, all right? We keep thinking that there's no way this can get any better, but Oda continues to literally write god-tier chapters. Even some of his filler chapters tend to be really good. But he continues every time he puts his pen to paper, it's just on fire. I believe one of y'all put like a GIF in the Discord where it's just this dude writing on paper, and the pen itself was on fire as the paper was on fire, and it's all like that is basically Oda whenever he writes this story out and then draws this story. That's basically Oda. All I can say is that every time we get a break from One Piece, I really hope Oda's getting a break as well, because a lot of mangakas have been taking breaks in order to take care of their health. Like the author of Hunter x Hunter has been going on a break to, take care of his health. Fuyuki from the beginning after the end is needing extra rest because of his hand condition, and that's the reason why the beginning after the end is taking a rest. Like a lot of these mangakas are putting out absolutely killer chapters, and I'm like, please rest. Please rest. Because we want to see this story end. I would hate for Oda to try and overwork himself for these chapters for the sake of just giving us these chapters. I would rather Oda rest whenever he can, if it means we would have to go on break more. So that way he can still give us these chapters. Not a lot of people would like to hear me say that, but the health of the author is incredibly important. He's not getting a break. He took a month break and was still working. A week break is nothing. True, that's true. Even when we are off, even when we don't have a chapter to react to every single week, or if we go on break, Oda is still working behind the scenes. So even if I'm saying this, he's probably still working hard to give us more fire chapters. So, I'm just speaking into the wind, But I'm just saying, as a whole, I really hope they're being able to sleep and eat and take care of themselves at the very least. Even if it's like 5 minutes worth of time, I really hope they're getting as much rest as they can so that we can continue to get these great chapters. That's all I can say about it. But my overall ranking for this month's chapters, overall, it was a solid 9. Maybe even like a 9.1, maybe a 9.2 if I were to ever put it on like a numerical scale, because of the first and last chapter we got. The only reason why I don't say 10 out of 10 is because if the middle chapter we got, 1075, was on par to the level of hype that we got from the first chapter and last chapter that we got, then of course it'd be a 10 out of 10. But I don't expect every single chapter that we get within a month to be a 10 out of 10 overall. But overall, this was a very solid month. I remember when he was a little sick and took an extra break between 991 and 992. I remember that as well. But I do hope his health is amazing because I want nobody but Oda to finish One Piece. Yes, no disrespect to anyone else, but the only person who can give us One Piece is Oda. He's the only person. He's the only person I trust to give us that truest, most authentic One Piece experience. Which is why whenever games that are related to One Piece get dropped, if they don't have Oda attached to it, I tend to be a little bit iffy on it. But yes, that's just my overall opinion of the months of the chapters we got in the month of February. Sorry if I've been saying a whole bunch of during this. This has just been like one big month, even though it's like the shortest month out of the year. It's just been one big month for One Piece and My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen, anime, video games. Am I excited about the live action? I am whelmed. Let me just say that. I am whelmed. I know a lot of people are very excited. A lot of people are not excited. I am just whelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm just whelmed. I want to see the trailer. Let me see the actual trailer. Let me see the dialogue, how they tackle certain instances of the series in live action, how it's going to be for Luffy to fight, having the powers of the Gum Gum Fruit. There's a lot of things in consideration for me to watch this live action. And I may watch the episodes, but I will not hold back my criticism as I watch the episodes. So yeah, I am just whelmed. But there's so much going on this year on top of anime and manga. Like, we get the next season of Demon Slayer. Just got announced that Elden Ring DLC is in development. So that's going on. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is still on my radar, regardless of how many people have written it off because of the live service game, even though these same people will play Destiny and Call of Duty and all these mobile live service games that exist out there. But apparently something's wrong with Suicide Squad, as if they don't dedicate time to other live service games without batting an eye. So that's just me. One Piece will break the cycle of bad live-action adaptations. It's possible. But we'll cross all the gaming milestones when we get to them. I heard Oda made them rewrite scenes because those specific scenes did not fit the original theme Oda wrote. Good on ya, Oda. Set him straight, because no one can tell a better story about One Piece than the original creator. That's the reason why no one was interested in the live-action Avatar reboot, Avatar: The Last Airbender reboot, when the original creators left. Everyone lost interest in that show because it's like, you can't try and tell a better story than the original, which is also a reason why Rings of Power failed. Like, you can't try and tell a better story than the original. You can't try and adapt something to make it this bad and then expect people to like it, and then think like, oh, people hate it because they just want to hate it. But no, you just created a bad show. It's like that. You can't try and make a better story than the original, unless you're really, really good at it. I think like the most recent example of making a remake of something that was original better than the original was the Dead Space remake. It's better than the original. That's one example that I recently came across. But conversation for another time. A lot of things happening for manga, anime, video games, and I intend to embrace as much as I can with the time I have on this earth, which is, not needless to say, going to be a very long time. So let me not keep you here any longer than I already have. I know I tend to drone on. I do apologize. But I got things to take care of. Got to talk to Gagio because there's new news on Final Fantasy 16. And we're going to talk about Elden Ring. I might boot up Elden Ring and play with that just a little bit. So a lot of things for me to do today. I'm just glad I was able to take this amount of time to spend time with all of you, as I do every month. And we talk about One Piece. Still working on doing different streams in the future for My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen, One Punch Man, and talking about those as well. Not just specifically One Piece on this channel, but all the other series that I read, and we have discussions about those as well. But I still need to find a good way to do those without it conflicting with basically everything else that I do. Which should not be a problem for March, because there's not really much releasing in March except for Resident Evil, I believe. Wolong is coming out, but I may wait on that for a little bit. Probably won't do a series on that. Resident Evil is going to have a playthrough series for it. But throughout March, I might do some more streams where I'm talking about the different series that I'm into. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So to everyone here, all I can say is, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed what you saw here today, then like, subscribe, share this stream with everyone you know, because the more the merrier. And maybe even consider becoming a member, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, later, peoples.